Hello and welcome again to our orientation program. This session will talk about migration and long distance relationship. All of you who decided to come to Israel and actually became migrants, labor migrants to be exact, because you came uh, with purpose of work. Some of you already had this experience in the past, who worked already abroad in other countries, but all of you who arrived to Israel, they became migrants. So we'll talk about that and how this process also affects our relationship with family. And we'll also try to give some useful advice as usual. We'll start this session from a definition of culture. Even though we discussed culture in previous sessions from different aspects, but today it's also very important. And the definition of John Connon is that people are different around the world. Their needs, however, are the same. How they satisfy their needs is different, and this is what we mean by culture. All of you came from Philippines, and there are some norms and standards and values, and now you entered another world, another country, and what often happens and inevitably happens with everybody with such transition called culture shock. Culture shock is a syndrome that is brought on by the stress that results from the loss of all the familiar signs, symbols, and surroundings that we have grown up with and taken for granted when we plunge into a total unfamiliar environment. That's what wait ahead for all of you. And again, some of you might have this experience in the past, but since we are talking about another country, a familiar country, this will happen inevitably. You'll find yourself with the unfamiliar signs. The letters look totally different in Hebrew, and yeah, and all together, we'll basically keep this environment very unfamiliar until you get to know it, get used to it. Look at this graph. It's actually very interesting because it expresses very well the different stages of this process of meeting new culture, getting first excited about it, then be upset about it, then adjust to it, and then adapt to it. So as you can see, there is a honeymoon period, which often happens in the real beginning, the excitement of arriving to a new place, and everything new and different looks very exciting and unusual and cool. And we are getting to very sometimes euphoric about it. Then comes sadness and realization that that is totally different, that you don't have any familiar things that you love, you appreciate, you can see, you can have an relatively speaking accessible. And yeah, that's where coming to actual culture shock. And different people have this feeling, situation, status for different periods of time. But then the good part is that the next stages are going up, as you can see. First, you come to adjustment. You say, fine, okay, it's different. You're starting to realize that, and then at some point you adapt. You find things that you love in new culture. You find yourself with the old values in new culture, and somehow you adapt and live new life. Here, this same stages, same stages, but being expressed and presented in a little different way. As I said, first stage is euphoria, honeymoon phase. Then very basic definition is what I'm doing here: denial, rejection of the new culture, depression. It's difficult to accept, sometimes anxiety. And the next more pleasant or more convenient stage is adaptation. What is important to know is that the same thing can happen to you. You can go through the same stages when you return home, or when you, after you visit home, coming back again to the same place, here in this context Israel, and feel go through all the stages once again. It doesn't have to be necessarily that strong, it doesn't have to be necessarily that long, but it might happen more than once in your life, and even when you meet the same culture. These are some symptoms of culture shock. On the way you feel mentally, you might be depressed, you might be suspicious, you might reject things, or feel some sort of regression, and that are all part of or under the category of mental problems. Sometimes this experience also might feel you physically not well. You might have headaches, you might have sleepless nights, insomnia, and that would be all part of health problems. And then, yeah, as I said, after culture shock comes adjustments, and also to hear and to learn and to know more about it is already very helpful. And that's the major reason why we're talking to you about it. So the first thing to assist yourself with this issue would be realize that culture shock may occur, and you may have culture shock, and probably you will all have culture shock, and it's inevitable. Second useful tip is be tourist. Be a tourist. Travel and learn about new country where you are. Study the local language. It's also not only practical but also helpful, and also improves the way you feel. Develop a social life and meet new people. Be proactive about your physical health. Pay attention to your diet, hygiene, and get regular rest, exercise, and relaxation. We know that you all came and you will assist to care about physical health of your patients, about people that you're supposed to take care, but also don't forget to take care of yourself as well. Another thing that can help is keeping a diary. What today often done, blogging, writing notes, in social nets, it also can very help. And also very important point is to be in touch, keep in touch with family and friends and the events back home. And now we will go look a little bit closer on the last point about staying in touch and maintaining a relationship with your family while you are far away from them. So yeah, next session we'll talk about communication of family in distance. First of all, it's very important to set a specific time, day, hour, duration of the contact when you're talking with your loved ones. Whenever you setting this time, it's also a commitment from both sides, and then you're waiting this time, you're thinking about it, you're getting ready, and your loved ones as well. Make sure that there will be a high quality communication without interference, including household worries. So whenever you set in this time, please try to think about hour when you, both sides, you and your family, will be available, and nobody will interrupt this communication. Another thing that we recommend is to try to avoid sort out the relationship. Claims by correspondence, message only when you meet, or at least video contact. So if you have, if you misunderstood something from text messages, you have some problem, try to not discuss it over text messages. And while you are having a video meeting with your loved ones, only then try to bring those things and discuss and see each other and see face expression and intonations, and there will be much less places for additional misunderstanding and misinterpretation. Remember another thing, long distance relationship is much deeper and less shallow in communication. You will have much less routine. So you can discuss more global things, the way you feel. And that is actually, from some point of view, it actually may deepen your relationship with your family, with your loved ones. Related to romantic relations in long distance, here are some advices from our end as well. Trust your partner. Avoid tracking loved ones in social media. don't follow. It's not a very pleasant situation. You want to trust, and you also want to feel be trusted. So trust each other. And again, if you have any doubts or questions, try to find a way to do that, and also discuss it during your video meeting. Use any possibility for personal meetings, of course. And again, if not possible, go for video contact. And don't forget to express your feelings. It's very important. None of you is telepath, and you don't know what is going on and how you feel your loved ones, and they don't have any idea how do you feel unless you will express that. So please do that, and then it will help you to stay closer in terms of the relationship and not in terms of the physical situation. Yeah, you're abroad and you're far away. It's you wouldn't feel this distance that way if you are expressing your feelings regularly together. And here are some also useful and important tips on maintaining relationship with children in long distance. Also very sensitive and sometimes painful subject, but again, because it is very important and you just entering this stage of your life, we thought that we can also might assist here with some tips. So these things that we want to think about. Try to avoid guilt compensation with gifts. It's often happens when parents are away and they feel guilty that they don't give enough attention. They're not next to their children to support them. Then they start to buy many gifts to feel less guilty. So please note that. We don't say that you shouldn't buy gifts, but just be aware of that and see that this urge to buy gifts don't coming from this place. Keep your expectations of appreciation reasonable. It often happens then parents, adults who decided to move abroad to earn money please remember that the decision to move to another country to earn money is entirely yours, and nobody, mostly not your kids, didn't push you, so they can't appreciate it the way you might want them to do that. They might still prefer their parents next to them, so please don't expect from them unreasonable appreciation. And another thing to remember, since you are adults and the parents, that the responsibility for long distance communication with a child is related on parent only. We call it often the adult the responsible, and here with this situation and the long distance relationship, it's quite the same. The maintaining of this relationship is your responsibility. So remember that, and whenever you act from this assumption, from this point of view. Here are a few useful tips how you can maintain this relationship and keep communicating constantly. So here also the same advice: set a specific day, hour in a week when you talk, that it should be quality time, that nobody interrupts, and keep the conversation without any interference. Then you can also send your children funny and interesting messages once a week, or even more, of course, but at least once a week. Call them regularly, and also tune into their passions. Learn what is interesting for them, and today you can also learn things that are interesting for them to learn. You can also learn online, and to be an expert, to invite them to investigate together. So just express your interests and their interests and their passions, and it also help to make a relationship stronger. Then continue to keep traditions or create together new ones while you're abroad, and maybe not everything you can do together what you did in the past. So try to create new traditions and new things that you can do together, even when you are at a long distance. But the most important that you close with your hearts. Thank you very much. It's not easy session, but we gather here from specialists, from social workers who worked with adults and people similar to your situation, and this all information that they give, the tips that might assist you to have this experience good from this point to improve your relationship, to make it stronger, and to stay close with your loved ones even when you are far away from them.